Can electricity replace V8 ferocity? Well, that is what the new Dodge Charger Daytona wants to do, and we had the chance to try it out on track. When we were at the launch for the new 2025 Dodge Charger Daytona, the thing that the Dodge folks asked us to do right in that very first press conference, they asked us to drive it as a muscle car first and as an EV second. But is the world ready for a true electric muscle car? This car gets a lot of things right, but it also misses in a lot of key areas. The first one being, this is a very, very large and heavy car. We're talking about 5,800 pounds, nearly 5,750 is what Dodge quotes for the Scat Pack version two-door, and that is a very heavy car. To put that in perspective, my 2010 Toyota Tundra V8 weighs about 300 pounds less than a fully equipped EV Dodge Charger. Now, that fully equipped EV Dodge Charger does come with a very large battery, 100.5 kilowatts, which gives it a range of about 220 to 240 miles total, just a little under 200 miles as far as usable range. That is with the 670 horsepower Scat Pack version though. Hey, before we go too deep into the data though, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, and that is Tire Rack. Now, if you're in this community, if you are a car enthusiast, you probably already know about Tire Rack. If not, I'm going to tell you that if you want to go someplace where you can get tires, it's right in their name, obviously, but not just tires, wheels, shocks, springs, suspension accessories, all kinds of stuff for your car. And when you touch base with Tire Rack, you're going to be talking to a knowledgeable enthusiast much like yourself. Go to any SCCA Autocross, any track day, and you might see somebody that works at Tire Rack running those cars around the track, because there's a lot of good folks working there. They know what they're talking about, and they support this community that we're in. If you want to get some great stuff from Tire Rack, support channels like this one, and support a great company that also helps support us, check out the link down in the description. In a lot of ways, this car is its own worst enemy, and that is especially true given the size and mass of the car. Now, as we've seen with the modern breed of good handling, sporty all-wheel drive EVs like the Hyundai Ioniq 5, like the Tesla Model 3 Performance, these cars, because of their very low center of gravity, can be made to handle surprisingly well. But the laws of physics are laws and not suggestions. You can only get so far with a car that weighs nearly 3 tons, in fact over 3 tons with a driver and passenger. At some point, you're going to bump into a harsh reality, and despite some fantastic efforts in making this car handle, making this car brake and accelerate very well, reality and physics eventually does catch up with it. We also need to talk about one of the more interesting features of the car, which is what Dodge calls the Fratzonic exhaust. So the Fratzonic exhaust is what a lot of people are going to call fake sound, and I get it. You know, I get that there is a lot of consternation about these cars manufacturing sound, but let's think about it this way. Sound is a very important part of the driving equation. We have 5 senses. The more of those senses that we can engage, the more emotionally involved we can get in these cars. I mean, when Darth Vader walks in, it just seems cooler. He seems more badass when that Imperial March is playing. A soundtrack is important. But so much of the effort into this particular soundtrack has gone into producing a very V8 sounding soundtrack. You've got a resonance chamber, you've got a speaker, you've got an amp back there that you can use to produce any waveform, any frequency with any effects on it, and you're still thinking in the context of a traditional V8 engine. There are no rules, and I think the sooner that we can have EVs producing their own unique sound and finding their own sonic identity, that's going to go a long way towards really giving them a true character and finding their own unique character within the performance car community. Now, visually, I'm going to say that I am a fan of this car, even though it is a massive automobile. Let's pull out the specification sheet here, and we'll just run down a few things. 206 inches long, that is a little over 17 feet to you and me. 121-inch wheelbase. Think about that. That is only a couple of feet shorter, just for the wheelbase, than an entire Miata. This is a very, very large automobile, but it's a very well-proportioned automobile, especially with 20-inch wheels on it, 11 inches wide in the front, 11.5 inches wide in the rear on the Scat Pack version. So it's pretty well-proportioned. In fact, Dodge says that this is the widest they can legally make a car without adding additional marker lights to it for US DOT regulations. I'm not sure that's something necessarily to be proud of. I think that's more of a result of a very large battery pack and electric drivetrain being packaged into this car. But it's a big car, but the proportions work out well, and there are a few angles that really do cut a nice silhouette. The rear three-quarter angle in particular, very, very handsome, and really evokes some of those great classic lines from cars like the '68 Charger, which heavily influenced the design of this car, both on the outside and on the inside. So while we haven't had a chance to test this Dodge Charger Daytona at our official test track yet, we did have a chance to preview it on track at the Radford Racing School in Phoenix, Arizona. And I think there might be a couple of things that we can look for in the data that might give us a preview of what we'll see when we do get it out to the Florida International Rally and Motorsports Park. So I've got both, or all three of the speed trace. I've got the lateral acceleration and the longitudinal acceleration traces opened in Circuit Tools here. And the first thing we're going to look at is we're going to look at the lateral acceleration trace here. That is this one in the middle. Now this top line here is at 1.1 Gs going in both directions here. And we can see that this car can produce cornering forces sustained over 1 G. That's pretty good, especially for a nearly 3-ton automobile. We'll also look at the longitudinal acceleration. That gives us an idea of braking and acceleration performance. We see that this bottom braking trace here is at 1.1 Gs, and acceleration, our high line here is 0.4 Gs, and we can see sustained acceleration in the 0.4 G area, and we can see sustained braking, especially here at the hardest braking point on the track of at or over 1 Gs. That's pretty darn good as well. Now, if you want something to compare that to, we'll close this data trace up. We'll open up one for the Hyundai Ioniq 5N. Again, tested at a different track under different conditions, but if we open these lateral and longitudinal acceleration traces, we can see very, very similar peak numbers. We're seeing longitudinal acceleration here under thrust, right around the 0.4 G mark. We're seeing braking down right around the 1 to 1.1 G mark. We're seeing lateral acceleration a little bit higher in the Hyundai. Of course, this was at a track that we had more sustained cornering at. This was at Laguna Seca, so we're seeing these 1.1, 1.2 G peaks. But overall, what we are seeing as far as numbers from the Charger Daytona is, fairly commensurate performance with other high-performance EVs. So what do we think about this new electric muscle car? Well, there's definitely a lot of things it's doing very well. Great power, excellent braking, handling that sort of belies its extremely prodigious size. But you can't fool Mother Nature. You can't cheat physics. Eventually, all that mass definitely catches up with you. And also, we really want to know who's going to be the most interested in these cars. Will this car be for tech adopters? Will it be for muscle car enthusiasts? Are there a group where that Venn diagram crosses over onto one another that we just didn't know about? It's going to be interesting to see who eventually buys these cars and just what position they take in the enthusiast pantheon. Now, we can't wait to actually get a proper test on our official test track. We don't really feel like we got a a full representative example of what the car is capable of, I think it may actually surprise us a little bit on track. But it's always going to be in the back of our mind that for less money, we can get a car like a Tesla Model 3 Performance or a Hyundai Ioniq 5N, which has more acceleration, lighter weight, just as good, if not better handling with things like advanced torque vectoring. This might not be the ideal car for the more road course track focused enthusiast who wants to adopt an EV into their track activities. But it's an interesting step for a legacy brand moving their muscle car nameplates into a future that we will see exactly how it works out. Hey folks, if you are enjoying the stuff we are doing here at Grassroots Motorsports Magazine, head to our website at grassrootsmotorsports.com where you can check out the entire catalog of our editorial, both from the print magazine and the online component. And you can also get your hands on great Grassroots Motorsports merchandise just like this. We appreciate you stopping by. We cannot wait to see you next time at the track.
Want to see more content like this? Make sure to hit that subscribe button and like this video. And for more information, visit us online at grassrootsmotorsports.com.